Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to Umoja's latest series, Community Voice. Today's show is co-hosted by me, Fatima Al Sayed, and Rida Ali. Community Voice talk show incorporates the true essence of Umoja, which means unity. With so many successful and inspiring youth movements and leaders around us, we will be learning their stories, struggles, and ideas to reimagine our daily lives and goals.
Today we invite brothers Ali and Muntazir from Hussain. Hussain's vision is a society inspired by Hussain. Leading with the values Hussain stood for, those of compassion, justice, and dignity, their purpose is to build compassionate communities inspired by the moral values of Hussain. We achieve this through meaningful local actions and initiatives coupled with informative content.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Muntazir. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Ali.
Hey, wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having us.
How are you guys today?
Good, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. How about yourselves?
We're doing really well. We're really excited to have you guys to really tell us more about, I think, the background of Hussain, how it started and everything that went into making it as successful as it is today.
Yeah, so just to start off, why don't each of you introduce yourself and kind of your personal journey with Hussain and how you came to be a part of whatever role you're in right now?
You want to go first?
No, I'll let age go before beauty. Go for it, Ali.
All right. My name is Ali. I've been part of Hussain since, I want to say, 2015. Started off as a volunteer on a day-to-day basis. Shortly after that, I became a team lead for New York City. After about a year or so of being a team lead, I became part of the national North America team. And since January of 2020, I've become the head of North America.
Salam, my name is Muntazir. So I've been with the organization since 2012, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. So yeah, I've been with them since then, since the beginning, and now I'm the newly appointed director of the Hussain Foundation, which is a registered charity in England and Wales. So essentially, we kind of are basically what we call the central team. So we try and lead on the strategy, direction, and all the rest of it, and the management and coordination with our teams across the world.
So when did you actually, what role did you start with, Brother Muntazir?
So everyone was kind of looking for someone to put their hand up to say that they would kind of answer emails from people who want to join the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, sure, I'll do that. I don't mind. I thought maybe, like 2, 3, 4 people, maybe in the UK from different places might just kind of email in. Who knows? You never know what's going to happen. And before you know it, there was people from all over the world emailing us in like 2012, 2013. So you had people like from Chicago, people from Beirut, people from Tanzania, from like Australia. And it was just like, it was really overwhelming. It was like, whoa, like how did this happen? So that's where I kind of started off as what we call the global team leader. And I did that for quite a few years, for about 6 years, until we got to a point where, alhamdulillah, we had like 40, 50 teams. And I was kind of spending like my school holidays, literally just ringing up people every single day, just to kind of like talk to them and be like, so who are you? What team are you part of? How do we help you? And it got to a point where it was just like, I couldn't really do it anymore. So I was blessed to have like people come in as continental team leaders. So like Ali being head of the North America, and then someone being head of Africa and Europe and Asia and Oceania and so on and so forth. So I had people to help me and support me like that. And that's been kind of going for the last 3 years. And then recently we kind of, ironically, during kind of lockdown, as it started, we were kind of thinking to ourselves, we really, really want to expand. Having 60 teams around the world, we can do so much. There's so much still to be done. There's, like 7 billion people pretty much who need to know about this great man. And we need to start somewhere. And so we said, let's take up the responsibility. Let's get a CEO in. and God blessed me with that opportunity since like October 2020. So that's what I've been doing since then.
That's incredible. You've been at this right from the beginning. We're going to actually get into that story a bit later in the show. But Ali, you started as a volunteer and then moved your way into team lead. So, how was that process and experience like for you? Oh, I think you're muted.
There we go.
There you
Sorry.
go.
I think a couple years before I even became a volunteer, I had seen Hussain, and I wasn't sure how to get involved. I didn't know much about the organization, but I had seen that they were doing some work. So when I did get the opportunity to go be a volunteer, I was ecstatic to just be a part of something so grand and, you know, to serve Hussain ibn Ali and his cause. So I got involved literally from, I think, my very first event. I was taking off the strip that goes around the water bottles and putting on Hussain strips on there, and then we went out and passed those out. So I was just happy and, you know, just very, I guess, lucky to be chosen to be a part of it. So that's basically the beginning of my story.
Okay. Yeah, Rida, you can go with the next question.
Oh, yeah. And then also, if you could tell us a little bit more about how you guys decide what like projects and initiatives you do for Hussain, because I've seen so many, from like a backpack drive to a blood donation drive. So how do you decide what each local community needs, and how do you carry it all out on such a big scale?
So I can give you like a high level answer, and Ali can kind of give you a lot more details because he works with the team so much more directly now. Just in terms of like the example you gave for the backpack, it's a really nice memory that actually I guess Ali and I share, and that's kind of where the bond between us two started. So it was quite a few years ago, back in 2016, I think it was, when we had a conference in North America. And the Chicago team back then, actually, they came up with this idea to do the backpack drives because they said they realized that actually their local communities, that's where the struggle lies, that's where the problem is. And it's mainly in terms of kind of impoverished areas that have got, poverty or under the line of poverty, parents and families. And they need to kind of like assess that. And really, it's our teams that come up with these ideas. But I remember with this particular one, they said, "Hey, how about we do a backpack drive?" And at that time, we were kind of like, "Yeah, I mean, that, you know, it sounds like a cool idea." And that was 5 years ago. And that's where actually I met Ali, because he was the New York team leader. And I remember afterwards, after that first day, we went to a cafe and we kind of chilled out there. And I remember thinking to myself, this guy really speaks a lot of sense. He's got a lot of kind of strategy in his mind, and that's where we thought, you know, we've got to get him on board. So I think mainly it's the teams on the ground. They go and assess. They know what is needed on a local level, which is really the beauty of it. We're working on a global level. We're thinking globally in terms of like what we want to do, but then when it comes to execution of what needs to be done, that comes down to our local teams. I don't know if Ali wants to add anything to that.
Go for it.
Yeah, so locally, the way it sort of works out is based on whatever community you're in and what that community needs at the time, because we want to fulfill that need. For example, I'm here in Colombia right now, and we went to an area where we know they need help with certain things. So we went and we found the leaders in that area, and we asked them exactly what it is that they want to do, how they want to help the community, and what it is that we can offer them. Whether it's financial, whether it's volunteers, whether it's clothing or food or what have you. So we kind of keep our pulse on the community to find out exactly what it is that's needed, and then we surround our events around that.
How can new people who are coming in start getting involved at the ground level? So whoever is able to go for that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so there's a few ways. So I think the best way to get involved, if you go onto the website, and there is like a section at the top that has get involved, and it'll have a drop-down menu, and it will say join one of our teams. So if you click onto that, it will give you a list or kind of like a directory of where we have teams at the moment. And if there is someone, for example, who already has a team, so let's say, I don't know, in Beirut, for example, you could always click on that. They have the profile page and you can email them and ask to get involved with them. Or alternatively, if you'd like to join and maybe create your own team, there is a facility on that page as well. And that will come through to us in kind of like a form that is outputted. And our global team leader, who is Fatima, she will get in contact with that person. So anyone who's listening, please go onto the website if you think that you can get involved. And if you don't have a chapter in your local area, please get involved. We're always looking for new team members to come on board and create new teams. Like I said, we've got 7 billion people that need to know about Imam Hussain, which means we need lots of people to make that happen.
And I think I just want to pick up on what he's saying. Either go on the website and shoot us an email, or you can always, if you know you have a local in that area, you can always go to the Instagram page or even the Facebook page and message them there directly.
That sounds so amazing. And then also kind of with everything that's been happening, just another added layer onto that, how have you guys been able to do everything that you do with COVID? And has there been any new sort of developments with that and how people can get involved?
Well, with COVID, initially, you want to go ahead?
No, go for it.
Sure. So initially, we weren't sure exactly what we were getting ourselves into with COVID. So we sort of paused for a little bit just to kind of gather some information and understand what's going on, because we don't obviously want to put our volunteers at risk. Once we understood what was going on, then the volunteers didn't even want to sit still. They wanted to go out and do things. So they, once we knew what it was, then obviously we took the precautions as far as gloves, as far as mask and sanitation and everything. And then now it's sort of pretty much back to normal, obviously taking into consideration that we make sure that they do the precautions for COVID.
And then, Brother Munster, if you want to add anything to that.
So I think looking at it from like a global perspective, everywhere is different. So London was and is at the moment, unfortunately, back in like serious lockdown. Places like New Zealand have been really kind of more fortunate because they've dealt with it really, really well. And we've got a team in New Zealand who have been able to do much more, if you want to call it, regular events. There are other places where our teams have just, I mean, I'm speechless to think about the things that they've done. A really good example is our team in Pakistan, who literally got, kind of kitted up in like the forensics kind of like wear with like full PPE. And they were actually out sanitizing streets. So they were sanitizing with kind of like sprays and stuff like that, which was kind of like above and beyond things that people can do. And that's just for our teams around the world. Wherever there is a need, they have stepped up. We usually do like maybe a couple of hundred events in a year. I just can't believe that our teams did even more events in 2020, considering that COVID had hit. And we had a 40 Neighbors campaign that was kind of addressing COVID. And some of the figures that are online were just incredible. And our teams on the ground are just absolute soldiers. Really, they are. Both the sisters and the brothers. They're just unbelievably amazing.
And this organization is a humanitarian campaign. It's a humanitarian cause. So it would make sense that in 2020, we'd have more, help and aid towards humanity. Let's go back all the way to the beginning. I think, Muntasir, you can tell us more about this. How did Hussain really start?
I like how you say, how did it really start? Like there's a fake story out there that's circulating, but so it's kind of like it really is. It's a blessing. I think the entire story from 2012 till now is just, it really is. It's just it's a blessing. So one of the brothers here in London, he kind of listened to a lecture or a majlis online, and he was really, really pumped up, and he kind of gave a call at like a ridiculous time in the morning. I think it was like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. and said, guys, how is it possible that there's no like website out there that just tells the world about Imam Hussain in English? There's lots of lots of majalis and stuff like that. And we said, yeah, that's a good point, actually. He said, we need to meet. So a few of us kind of met at a friend's house. And we called, the place that we met is called the Den, because back then he was a bachelor, and he had a nice area where we could all guys could come and kind of just chill out and stuff like that. So we kind of discussed the idea, and we said maybe we should just pose the question, like, who is Hussain, and see how that goes. He then said that I know somebody who kind of does websites and graphic design. Let me give him a call, see if he'd be interested in helping us. So he kind of went out the room and went to speak to this guy. And a few minutes later, he came back in, and he's not one of those very kind of animated type. He's a very, very chilled out guy. And he came back with a really strange look on his face, and we were like, well, everything okay? Did he say no? What happened? And he said the strangest thing. He said that he has owned the domain whoishussain.org for the last 2 years, waiting to basically do something about it. And he goes, and you guys have come and knocked on my door, literally asking, can we do something called Who is Hussain? We didn't even know this guy. And we definitely didn't know that the domain name was already existent and purchased. And I think at that point we just knew, you know what, something about this feels blessed. And we just worked really hard. I think in 2012, when we kicked off in like October, November, I remember being at the Sheikh's house. His son was helping us, and no joke, we were there for like about a month. Every night for 30 nights in a row, we were up till about 2-3 a.m. Just working on content, working on like the website, working on infrastructure, everything. And before you know it, we really, really genuinely, we thought this will kind of, maybe a few people in the UK might kind of just, I don't know, see the website and be like, oh, that's really nice, very good. Well, job well done. And that's probably all that's going to happen. And like I said to you before, suddenly you just get these emails from around the world. And before you know it, you've got teams around the world who just want to serve in the name of Imam Hussain. And I shouldn't be shocked. I really shouldn't be surprised, because, if a man can die 1400 years ago, and 1400 years later, people, in their millions walk, some barefooted, to go and see this man and go pay his respects, I shouldn't be surprised or shocked that these sort of things happen when you do something in his name.
Yeah.
You can go for it, Rida.
That was absolutely amazing. Just like hearing you talk about it, like gives me goosebumps. And it's crazy how, you started it so small and now it's like this huge thing. So honestly, like that's just amazing. And I think one thing that was really interesting that I learned as well, that Fatima also mentioned, was that it's not just Muslims or even just Shias who volunteer for Who is Hussain. It's a universal message. So if I could ask you, like, what is the single message you are trying to get across with Who is Hussain? What would you say? Any of you can answer.
Montazir, keep going, man. You're doing great.
No, I've talked too much, Adi. I definitely defer to you.
No, take this one, please.
The single message, I think, is ultimately, end of the day, Hussain was someone who stood for everyone, and stood for the best of morals. And I think out there are so many people who are looking for something. They're looking for a figure that they can follow. They don't need to become Muslims. They don't need to become, categorized in any way. They simply need to just find someone like Hussain, and basically follow his footsteps and make the world a better place. I think if we can all do that, we will be happier, and we'll make the world a better place. So regardless of faith, culture, race, gender, and any of these sort of divides, Imam Hussain is definitely for everybody, and everyone can find inspiration in him, and make themselves a better person and make society a better place.
I have a question for you. So being head of America, I think North and South America, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us about your experience with volunteers who are outside of Islam, who are not Muslims, but are just joining for this cause?
Yeah. with this cause, as Munzer was mentioning, it's not just about a particular sector or a particular religion. It's across the board as far as humanity is concerned, because we're servicing humanity regardless of culture, race, religion. And when people see that, they connect to that, because for one place, it may be something about racial injustice and people connect with that. Another place, it may be something about social justice as far as not having food for people or not having clothing for certain people, and people connect and see that, you know, we're actually getting down to the roots of the communities and helping. So they want to take part of that, because people have a need to want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And, you know, religion doesn't have to be a reason to stop somebody. And for example, here I'm in Colombia, and I've been here a short time, and I already have volunteers who are not Muslim, who have, you know, not even heard about Hussain ibn Ali, but once they hear his story, they connect with him, and then they want to volunteer and be a part of this.
Mm-hmm. And what was the reason for you to join from the beginning? I know you have a background in marketing. So can you tell us a little bit about your career background and how that also goes hand in hand with what you're doing with Hussain?
My background is in marketing, and I have a marketing company based out of New York City. And the reason for me joining, this goes back several years prior to me joining. I was listening to a lecture, and the sheikh was speaking about how on the day of Ashura, Hussain ibn Ali stood there and said, "Who is there to help me with my mission?" Mm-hmm. And at that time, Ali Akbar was gone, Qasim was gone, Abbas is gone, no one is alive. And he said, who was he talking to if no one was there? And he said that we come every year and we say, if we were there, we would do something to help his cause. So he said that he was talking to us, the generations to come. So what are you doing in your life to help the cause of Hussain ibn Ali? And that's when it really clicked for me. And I said to myself, okay, I really, really have to get involved with something so that I can help carry on that mission. Because yes, it's good to go to the majalis and listen and commemorate every year. Mm-hmm. But what about the actions? Are we really taking action in order to better society the way he would want it to be better? Or are we just going as a, you know, just as a customary thing to go every year and commemorate, and that's it? So that's what really clicked for me. And with working in marketing and working in advertising, I thought that, you know, it would be great to make it more mainstream. So a couple of years ago, what we were able to do is we were able to get Hussain ibn Ali's name and his quotes in New York City in Times Square, which is something that I don't think has been done before. And we ran the campaign. I think Munzer can tell you which other countries and which other cities we did. We ran it across the globe, and that was just astonishing, just to be able to see, you know, in live and really just like mainstream media, Hussain ibn Ali's name being mentioned. Mm-hmm. Being able to put it up in New York City in Times Square was a big deal for us.
And it wasn't easy, as I recall from our interview for the You Mentor Talk show. You told me, I can't forget how you told me that you walked into that room with white people who are advertisers, you know, telling them about Imam Hussain and bringing it to them as a humanitarian cause rather than, you know, something that's religious, because religious things can't be put up in Times Square. So that is a great achievement. And I think it was truly amazing and inspiring to actually see, you know, the name of Imam Hussain on those billboards. So it didn't just touch, you know, several people. I think it touched a lot of people worldwide.
Yeah, it was a big deal because, as you mentioned, normally they don't advertise anything with religion, politics, and a few other things. And I was just trying to figure out how I can get them to, you know, put this up. And I took the same approach that we take when we're speaking to the people, when we're volunteering and doing our events. We try to connect to them at their level. And that's what I was able to do. And I said, listen, this is not about religion. This is more about a humanitarian effort. And these are the types of events that this organization does. So we should be able to showcase this so that more people can join to make a better society. And that's how we're able to get them to advertise it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like also like being in the city, like I remember like a bunch of my family members had sent me a message saying, look, this is in Times Square. And I was like, that's Ali from New York. So it's just crazy how each member who joins Who is Hussain can make a huge difference in like the locality that they're in. So such a crazy day, honestly. As Ali said, it was so monumental. And then kind of just wrapping up in these last 5 or 6 minutes. What do you guys think is the future for Who is Hussain? Do you have any big projects or goals that you have in mind for the next like 5 or 10 years? Anything that you haven't done that you really want to do with this organization?
The goal, which I'm gonna say again, is we need everyone on this planet to know about this man. That's 7 billion people we need to work on somehow. I don't know how we're gonna do that, but if we just keep working away at it, it will happen. But I think there's so many goals, in terms of especially local. So you see, for example, Chicago, how amazing they've done with the backpack drive. You see how London, for example, how London and Birmingham in the UK have got weekly food drives. In Birmingham, it's more than once a week, and they're helping people who are starving, and they are depending on Who is Hussain to feed them. I think the mentality that we need to have is we want Who is Hussain to become like an integral part of every society, where we have team leaders, and we want people to literally be in the position where they require our services. Of course, we don't want people to be homeless or be in need or be vulnerable, but that's the reality of the world that we live in. And if we can be of service, and we can be people who come to their aid and give them refuge, and we can establish that name of Imam Hussain, then inshallah when the awaited Imam comes back, we have inshallah made his job a little bit easier in being able to introduce the truth, to be able to introduce a better way of life and a solution to society through the establishment of his grandfather's name, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Ali,
And-
add?
Yeah, one of the things that has been on my mind for the last few years is having Who is Hussain centers across the world, where people can come for anything that they might need. And I want to do that obviously in New York City as well. But right now, being here in Colombia, we have a very great opportunity to be able to do that, where we're getting a house and we're going to take the rooms and turn them into different rooms. One, for example, a library, one for a computer room, one for arts. And we're actually having the ability to take in a psychologist for mental health that we're going to be able to help the people with. And we're also going to be able to teach them about life, business, how to get a job, how to start a business, and life skills just in general. And that's something that I'm very, very excited about, because it's so near and so real now that it's actually going to start happening, inshallah, in the next couple of months.
That's incredible. Inshallah, this pandemic can, I don't want to say get resolved soon, because it's going to take a long time, but inshallah we can be able to deal with it better and have those centers open so people can actually interact in person going forward.
Inshallah.
Any final words before we completely end our show? Anything you want to leave us with?
No, I think if anyone who is tuning into this, please do reach out. Like we said, get involved. I think this is an amazing project to just kind of get people to, sometimes we think that we know this man. As someone who's been brought up as a Shia, I always thought I knew about this man, but the love that you get for him, the way that you can kind of engage with religion, and just I guess the amazing people that you can meet along the way. I'm meeting people like Ali and yourselves as sisters who are kind of interviewing us. I'm sure you've got an amazing background, but we will all come together as people who love Imam Hussain. So really, the doors are open, and please, we welcome you to get involved. And if you can support us, but really just pray for us and pray that we can be more and more successful every year.
Inshallah.
I just wanted to add something. Munzer mentioned earlier about our bond at the in Chicago, I think. But I think that was good. But I think where it really picked up quite a bit was when we had that conversation in the car in London for, I don't know how long we sat there at night in the car. But I think that really did it for me, even more than Chicago.
Well,
I feel like they can ask you what we spoke about in the car for so long, Ali. So if you can tell them if you want to tell them.
go
Sorry,
for it.
again, I didn't hear what you said.
I said it feels like they're going to ask us what we spoke about for so long in the car. So you're going to have to tell them if you want to tell them.
I don't know. That was a long conversation, but it was a great conversation. We'll leave it at that.
Inshallah, many great things will come out of it.
Inshallah. Ultimately, it was really all comes down to the blessing of being able to know Imam Hussain. That is the biggest blessing that we have, and we should never keep that blessing to ourselves. We have to share that with everybody because that's what it is. It's a blessing.
Thank you both so much for giving us, all of your experiences and your inspirations behind being part of this organization, and for inspiring generations and generations. Inshallah, you can continue to do this work, and more and more people will continue to spread the message of Imam Hussain alayhi salam.
Inshallah. Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, it was a real honor to be on here. So thank you very much for having us.
All right, and that wraps up this episode of Community Voice, where we heard from the people behind Who is Hussain. To hear a replay of this show, you can visit the UMentor website under prior talk shows or subscribe to our iTunes, SoundCloud, or Spotify podcast profiles. Please join us next week for the teen edition of the UMentor Talk Show, Umoja Outreach Foundation, uniting and empowering the Shia community.